Well, hello again. Today we're going to be talking about geisha, and I normally wouldn't consider myself much of a geisha guy. I always thought that they were overpriced and kind of underdelivered for for what you would get. But I don't know. I ended up with I think nine, depending on how you count, 9 or 11 different geisha coffees that I purchased in 2025. Still have some of it going into 2026 here. And just thought I would just talk about what I'm finding with the current state of geisha in the home roasting community, or what's accessible to us. I'm going to pretty much just skip over the whole history of geisha, the drama of the prices, and that sort of thing. I'm just going to talk about what I found. I do have some notes on what I paid. I'm not going to weigh in on is it worth it or not. But I do like to try it time to time, and I guess I'm becoming more and more of a geisha aficionado. So I'm just gonna start at what I thought was the best. I don't know where else, to start. And as much as I'd love to say there was like a super affordable one that blew everything away, I really didn't. It came down to the best did come from Panama, which I've not been that impressed on what gets down to the home roasting community from Panama in terms of geisha. It's usually not that great, but I did have some good experiences. So I want to first talk about from Berman. They had a premium sampler pack, and these came out to, yes, $40 a pound. They were half-pound samplers, so they were $20 per packet, but it's the equivalent of $40 a pound. But really nice examples. So the first one I want to talk about is this the Panama El Salto Finca Camiseta Geisha Washed Purple Tip. And this was probably my favorite of all of them. I also got in the sampler the Mamacata Beneficio Arriba, which is that one. And in my Onyx Advent Calendar box for, I think this was the final, the 24, number 24 was Panama from the famous farm Hacienda Esmeralda. They included a small sample of that, which was beautiful. So those, people, those were the best. But it's hard. These are still hard to get. They had a backstory of how they got this. It's not common that regular people can get this. Berman had a backstory of how they got through some friends that submitted to Cup of Excellence. I think the total amount they had to sell was something like 10 pounds or 20 pounds. So they kind of did us the solid, Berman did, by sharing it with regular people if you wanted to spend the money to get it. It's an unusual set of circumstances on how they got it, but there we go. But there are some excellent options outside of Panama. I think your next best origin is going to be Colombia. And we're going to talk about a few of those. So I'd say my next favorite was probably this one, the Colombia Leonardo Henao Geisha. And this was arriving in November 2025 at Sweet Maria's in $18.50 a pound. So yeah, we're talking 1.5 to 2 times the price of regular green coffee. This was my roast of it, 11.8% weight loss. And usually I think on all these, I'm comparing a 40-second development time, and they usually landed about that in the mid 11s to low 12% weight loss. And the only caveat with this one is that it was probably the most Ethiopia-like, if that makes sense. It would fool me sometimes that it was actually an Ethiopia. But you can tell it's got that really distinctive elongated bean. It's long and kind of narrow. but excellent example. Really enjoyed that. And I would say my next two favorite were, and again, this is something that I've seen for several years now with Sweet Maria's. It's the Guatemala Acatenango Geisha. They split it this year, the lot, into a double A and just a regular lot. And so the regular lot was $14.75 a pound, and the double A was $15.25. I did not find, however, in blind cupping a significant difference between the two. Both were really nice. Maybe a bit higher in moisture, or starting moisture content, as my roasts ended up at 12. They both actually ended up at 12.5% weight loss. And so you can see what that looks like up close versus that looks pretty much the same. A couple that were, I would say, I liked them, just didn't like them quite as much. This was the Columbia Tolima Edward Sandoval Geisha. Actually, it's getting a little old, so maybe that explains it. But I would say definitely one to watch. It was definitely on the right path. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Just wasn't quite as expressive. This was the Prodigal. The Llano Redondo, 11.6% weight loss. So good place origin to look for geisha, I think. And then the only one I wasn't crazy about was this was from a sampler trio. I think the Laos Paksong Hills Geisha. This was $9.25 a pound. And I ended up doing a few roasts of this just because I was like, am I really getting the flavor notes right here? So this was my 11.7% weight loss roast. And this was my 12.3% weight loss roast. And I definitely got like garden veggies in this. It was like green peas, garden peas. Did not get the floral, did not get the, so it had some sweetness, but also had some like veggie notes. The only other origin I've gotten that is Brazil. I had a Brazil geisha, and it tasted very similar to this. And when I do roast them, I do, or cup them, I do pick out those Quakers there. I just left them in just to show kind of what it looked like. So all right, so what can you expect? Or if you already kind of know all this, you kind of know it's kind of the heartbreak varietal, because it's like, it's all of it's expensive. The very best examples we really don't have access to. It's kind of like Burgundy wine, and paying a lot guarantees nothing. So, but if you're getting into it and you're not sure, you've heard about geisha, it's expensive. Is it going to be like this huge powerhouse, like sucking the jaw type experience because it's so expensive? It's just so amazing. And actually, no, it's very subtle. And I guess that's what's growing on me, is I actually am appreciating the more I get into roasting, and the more we're seeing all these alternative processing coming along, I appreciate the subtlety. So we're talking, to me, the telltale sign of these coffees are that if you have them in a random lineup, it's going to probably be the cleanest, and you're going to notice a nice brightness. It's going to seem tea-like, and you might get some light fruit and some light florals, but not like over the top. Now, you can get natural process, which I also got from Berman, and I did roast a couple of these samples, and they're actually very nice too, but they're definitely have that overlay of that natural process. So if you like the flavor of natural process, those are some good options, but you can get that same flavor from a lot of different origins. You don't necessarily have to get it from Panama, for sure. So again, if I had to suggest, where to start, first of all, if you've never had an aha moment with an Ethiopia, where it's like, wow, I'm getting the florals. It tastes like jasmine. I'm getting the bergamot orange. I'm getting some really, really nice high notes. If you haven't had that experience, start there because that's going to be a lot more affordable. And in some cases, the Ethiopians just run circles around the geishas. It's just they still are the OG of that high note, fruity, floral, tea like, beautiful, pristine, subtle coffee is going to be Ethiopia. So start there. There's even there's a lot of really distinctive coffees out there that are way more distinctive than this. So Kenya is way more distinctive, much easier to pick out. Sumatra has its own character. It's low notes and it's earthy, but it is a lot more noticeable than geisha. So you have other options if you're just kind of getting into roasting and you're not sure where to start. Don't start with geisha. The only last thing I wanted to mention, I said I wasn't going to get into the history and the drama and things about geisha and the spelling of geisha and all that. But there's an excellent online article by Sweet Maria's. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description to that article. And it was written a few years ago, several years ago, I think 2016. Nice, probably the best article I've read about geisha. So there you have it once again. And happy roasting. Bye.